Greetings all, Flying Doctor here, hope you're doing okay. This is a workaround for the H145 cockpit with a few tricks and tips to help people along as they're first sitting in the aircraft, which can feel rather daunting. We are here at North Yorkshire Airport, and a great favourite of mine. It's actually Leeds Bradford. Oh look, there's an aircraft just from the other end of the runway. Never mind, on a lovely sunny day. So first and foremost, looking around the cockpit, what do we have? So this is if you start the sim up and you are looking just for a warm start. So if you just press fly now, this is what you'll get. Okay, so the first thing that I want to sort of show you is you've got these three panels here, but also if you press arrow right, you'll see that you've got a tablet, or you may well see this with a click, lift and pull, and then that will open up tablet options, which we will look at later. Okay, and the tablet has various functions on it, not least the autopilot, and you'll be able to look at that in more depth later. You can link it in to Navigraph account if you've got one. There'll be a little bit of a delay there, but it may well come up. It may well say, oh no, it's done that for me already. You have to give a little code if you've got a Navigraph account, and various other options on there. But don't worry too much about the detail. Most important thing is if you click System, you've got some setup options here, equipment, and further options. And if you click on the time bar, you hit the autopilot, which, as folks know, time bar that gives you an autopilot option is my kind of tip and trick that people, I think, miss out to start off with. So yeah, there's a tablet. That's how to get that open. Secondly, helpful as we go through this to plan custom views. Perhaps you want to just freeze yourself and do it yourself. As you right click and have a good look around the cockpit. Firstly, there's another way of doing that. I don't know if you're aware, probably are if you're a regular user of Microsoft Flight Simulator. There's some pre-programmed views in here, and if I press Control and the numeral 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 9 brings us back to the original. You'll see that there's some set views there. If you want to set your own views, this is really helpful. And again, it's familiar, but some people might have just started out with Microsoft Flight Simulator and they don't necessarily know this. If you press, you can program a view and alternative sets of views. So Alt, just think alternative Alt, and you can set an alternative view, Alt view 1, 2, 3, 4, by just positioning where you would like your camera to be. And one of my favourite positions is this kind of angle, because it gives me sight of the autopilot, it gives me sight of the dash here for the GTN, it gives me full sight of all of the dashes here, and it also gives me operability with the tablet. If I simply having established and make sure that I've got my little cursor on the screen. If you've got more than one screen, it won't work if you're on a different screen. If this screen has to be live, in other words, press Control Alt and 1. Okay, now what will happen is if I move that away and if I press Alt 1, it will return to that. So it's a really kind of nifty tool. So you've got your control views, but sometimes you might want something a bit more than that. For example, you might want to go right in at that kind of angle. I mean, one of my favorites is this kind of view, a bit closer, because it means that the inputs that I'm putting in on the autopilot, which is here, eventually when we do that, I can see the bugs and headings that will come up here. So for that one, click Control Alt 2, that's my second view. Come back. There we go. If I press, let's move out to a slightly different view, but if I press Alt 1, there we go, Alt 2, there we go. So you can see what's happening there. So just a nice little tip and trick for you. And you can navigate yourself around using the arrow keys and get a completely different view. We seem to have got somebody's lips there. But there you go. So we may well actually want a full co-pilot view. So yeah, these are kind of the options for you. I can't help myself but to do a co-pilot third view. There we go, looking across. Let's just, we've got some sunglasses there. There we go. But we might want to, it doesn't really matter, but we might want to kind of have that view as well. So yeah, that'll be Control Alt 3. There we are, and so we set our third view. So if we go back to Alt 1, Alt 2, Alt 3, there you go. So, and as I say, with a free pair of sunglasses in it for you, but you get the idea. Okay, so let's just have a look and explain our way around the cockpit. As usual, I am using the manual. I'm quite open about that, but I found you need the manual and you need to do this in practice, and some people will maybe just looking for a little hint, and it's going to be quicker for you just to look on YouTube here. So let's just have a look. What do we have? First, we have a warning unit. Up the top here is a warning unit, and any warnings will appear on that unit, and you're most likely to get a notification here in this little box here. So this is our warning unit up there. Let's see if we can get a nice warning going by really pushing too hard too fast, and see if we can get a warning up there. Please give me a warning. There we are. There's a warner. It's in rotor RPM. That's too fast, so we'll lower that down. There you go. I've just pulled up on the collective there. Whoa, 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 whoa. There we are. There we go. You just see me do a cheeky little click of something in the autopilot there just to steady it. So I'll just put that down there. There we go. Okay, so yes, warnings will appear in that dash there as aptly demonstrated. You have these three screens in front of you. Don't forget the middle one. So you've got, this is the co-pilot. So the pilot sits on the right, the co-pilot sits on the left. Okay, if you're wondering. Okay, now the pilot screen, you're not able to alter what appears on the pilot screen on this display here. Split into three: your primary flight display, your navigation display, and your information display down the bottom. There's separate tutorials on that. Left-hand screens can be altered. If you look at these little grey boxes, it tells you what you can alter them to. I personally like VMS, happens to be Vehicle Management System, and I've got a digital navigational display and a digital map as well. I tend to like to do that, and then you've got other options down the right here. So that's what those three screens are about. This third one is a standby, is just a standby flight display model, and there's just a centre and pilot there. Tablet hinge I'd shown before, that was on the right here. If I click just anywhere near this line, you've got this lift and pull here. Okay, the tablet hinge. So click on lift and pull. That's the way to do that. Just using the arrow keys to move around there. What else do we have? We have engine control panel, which is this middle one here. I'll zoom in for you, right in nice and close. Remember, this is a beta product. It's not all there yet, but the crucial things are that when you do a cold start, or you start from cold, you'll use these controls. So you have, and I will just share a little bit on this. You have two engines, engine 1 and engine 2, okay, and each have got a latch to start with, and you can be off, idle, or in flight. Okay, so when you're starting, you're in idle when you are just setting the initial instrumentation and the initial systems, and then you move to flight to actually start the engine's main. Okay, and vent doesn't work. That is, I think, usually used when you've got a failed engine at start, so you clear out the fuel. Okay. FADEC emergency, not tried this before, but FADEC are the digital systems for each engine that monitor the nuances of the engine to ensure you get maximum efficiency. So it's all digitally controlled. If you get a failure on that, then you are able to enter into an emergency setting, and you click that button here. There's an interesting training button here, and this is inoperative, but you can simulate it by actually, well, just shutting an engine off. That training button is there so that if you want to simulate what it's like to drop from two engines to one at short notice and practice sort of flight procedures, you're able to do it by pressing that button, which is not the same as shutting the engine off, which is what I've been doing more recently. So that's what this panel is about there. I guess the other way to learn about it is to actually go through a whole cold startup. That's always been quite a lot for me. You know, I quite often want to jump in the aircraft and start when it's ready and start flying. Okay. By the way, there are that settings here, because you can just see, if I whiz across to here, you can have a ready for takeoff button, which we can press, and you can have a cold and dark start as well when that's all being just shutting down now. You can see it's shutting down because these stars are coming down, yeah. So you can you can have it ready for takeoff or cold and dark. I mentioned this in a couple of videos. I talked about this warning area here, or this area here where you'll see system warnings come up, and if you've not acknowledged them, they'll have a coloured background. They're actually red, yellow or green. If you press acknowledge there, you lose the colour background. But we'll go ready for takeoff. There we are, and it's obviously testing stuff to get going, and yeah, interesting screens. Here in Britain, I'm wondering why they don't have that. There used to be this little girl sat with a puppet in front of an old television screen and a big grid. If you're not from Britain, or you won't be familiar with the heck of what I'm talking about, but suffice to say. So we know we're dealing with ready for takeoff. It's just automatically working through, switching everything back on at the moment. Okay, so yeah, that's hope that's just helpful there. Just working out, see what else we've got. These units here are GTN 750. I've not illustrated how you instigate these. If you start and you haven't installed the GTN 750 add-on, which is free, this happens to be the paid version and gives you more functionality, well worth it in my view. You'll find that this has a black screen here, and it tells you to install. If you go to the manual, you install it. It's pretty easy. Just search under Google for the GTN 650. I think it's a PMS50 is the company, but suffice to say, you can download that, pop it in the community folder, lots of guides on how to do that, and then it will appear there and it will give you options, so you're able to just work through. So you can have another map should you like it. We love our maps here apparently. You get an indication of traffic that's close to you, terrain here. It's not all the functionality there. Weather may well not have the functionality. Oh, it does have a weather kind of a scan on it. I don't know whether that's working. Not really played with this. As I say, this is the paid for version, but crucially you've got one here. So yeah, you've got one. If your co-pilot is sat here giving information, you've got one, and the co-pilot is able to say set in a flight plan. We can look at that later. It's fairly straightforward. Click on that, set your origin. I'll put EG NM, which I happen to know is the ICAO code for Leeds Bradford. It comes up there. Press enter there, and it should come up. Okay, and I say if I wanted to set my destination, I want another G. I'm just wondering, EG LC. I happen to know that LC is London City. If I enter that, that'll come up. Okay, and I can add a waypoint, but if I click here, I can activate that. It's already naturally activated, I think. But another way of doing it, I don't want to spend too much on this time, is that you can search for. We'll remove this. Remove. There we go. Okay, then we'll set. Well, we don't want the origin, but we can work another way. We can go to nearest airport. Select airport here. They'll come up. Okay. EGOX. I don't even know what that is. ARCS and Hope. It gives me the option to view charts. If you've not got the paid version, you won't actually see the charts, but it will let me see the path. Can't get Navigraph data. Don't know what that is. Doesn't really matter at the moment. But suffice to say that once you've found that, you can press this little Direct To button, and it'll throw up this dialog here. Activate that, and off you go. Okay, and the rest, I think, I just would be looking to cover, in a different tutorial. But suffice to say, that is this GTN 650 unit. Can be operated both sides, so there's a lot of information that you can be receiving here. Okay, below this, now this one kind of got me. Okay, so what you can actually do is you've got here a co-pilot flight display unit, and that decides, oddly enough, well, I don't know if you're trying to control a Copilot or whatever. I mean, the Copilot control it themselves. Maybe it makes life a bit clearer, but by clicking this, you can switch the unit off. If you just click next to the setting, and you can have a combination of, you can just have a primary flight display with no options here, or opposite side, you can have a vehicle management display just only. I mean, so I sort of selected it before, but you don't need to do that, or you can just click normal there. So that's what's happening there. Okay, just bear with me. So the other thing, I'm just having a quick look here, is that there is a flight log. I think you can get to the flight log through the tablet, but if you press this button, the event marker, it will just record an event. You'll have to note down what it is, but it will record an event. And this one's interesting. From the main, you won't have to worry about this when setting off unless you're in a polar region, and that is the directional gyro. It can be free or slaved to magnetic north. So for those who are new to it, we're aware, if perhaps you look at the map, the difference between true north and magnetic north, and there's variations. There's a variation between the two, but also if you're flying in some regions such as polar regions, you'll find that difference is significant. So what you can do is have a gyroscope backup. So a gyroscope takes a reading of where magnetic north is when everything's stable and nice, and then if you hit a problem reading magnetic north, the gyro is there as a backup, and you can either slave it so it's receiving regular updates on where magnetic north is, or you can have it watching independently if your magnetic north readings are unreliable. There we are. I think wow, managed to kind of say that. Okay. So yeah, that's what's going on there. This section here, the whole section of videos, is your autopilot controls. There's two ways of controlling the autopilot. You can do almost everything, I think pretty much so, from the tablet. But suffice to say that the adjustments here will show up here. I'm interested that this has just failed. I want to be ready for takeoff, please. Thank you. I don't know what's going to do. Engine 2 is failed. But we'll just have look, they're just doing a startup test there, right, and we'll acknowledge that previous stuff. There we go. Okay, right. Okay, so yeah, and the rough buttons here are labelled, so you've got vertical speed and heading track. The opposite to that is heading, sorry, and then you've got track, which is the difference between if you've got, say, a crosswind, how quickly the helicopter adjusts to follow the heading in a crosswind. There's a different form of adjustment, for example, if you're flying into a crosswind or whatever. I think that makes sense. The other buttons there, altitude button, heading button, and you hang over these and use your scroll wheel, or you can hold and drag if you haven't got a scroll wheel, and adjust these settings. That's vertical speed there. That's CR.HT. Interesting feature here, the difference between altitude and radio height, which is the easiest way of understanding CRHT. So you can be at an altitude of, say, here, especially in North Yorkshire. As you can see, if you look on this readout here, there's a whole readout on PDF, but you're looking at how the yellow line here intersects with the readout. You're not looking for the white line above the yellow, it's this yellow line here intersects with the readout. You can actually see we're intersecting just below 700 feet, but our ground height, which is what this column is 0. So it's possible to use radio height over water or over undulating area so that you can maintain the height below the helicopter as the terrain height varies. So you get a bit of a bumpy ride, in other words. So there you go. All these different buttons here, you don't need to touch those. Effectively, when you touch them, you actually switch stuff off, okay, because the device is otherwise. So yeah, as you can see, whatever, it's managed to restart nicely there. Okay, because I've not got any warnings that are here. Okay, let's just have a look. Now, this one down here is, obviously, it's a beta production. So you have got weather radar. It's actually a weather radar control panel here, which is all inoperative. So when it comes to the radar settings in the navigational displays, you've got fine tuning happening here, but none of this is active at the moment. Then moving down, you've got the radio. Now the radio is not active. You can press it, I think. Where is it? Can I get to an on? I think I did have an on switch on. There we go. And then you can get it's inoperative. Well, there you are. It's beta. Okay. And you've got a ground just right back here. There we go. If I just draw it down here, you have, and again, these not touched at all. You've got an air control panel here. Oh, that does work, actually. And a ground power on. Okay, for when you may well need that. But again, in the tablet, you're able to do that. And just above that, you've got a radio system. And of course, this just runs off Microsoft Flight Simulator radio settings. So that's not, I've not been able to do anything with that at the moment. But it looks quite nice, doesn't it? And then finally, you've got the cabin air control sort of panel here, down here. And again, not quite working. And then data transfer device just down the bottom there. In terms of controlling the airplane, you've got your rudders here. Okay. And then you've got two things at work here. You've got the cyclic and you've got the collective. I always forget which one they are. But I'm just going to click up here because if I go helpfully to Autopilot, it tells me. So yes, this is the cyclic, a bit like your joystick, and this is accurate and true to form. But effectively, there are buttons here so that when you're in Autopilot, you're able to make small changes. Now, you can map your joystick to have these buttons, and there are 4 buttons. What you're looking for is to have 4 beep trim buttons, a minimum on your joystick or programmed into your keyboard. Okay, and one is called cyclic beep trim and one is called collective beep trim. So that's the collective there. It is linked to the throttle. So when you raise the collective, you will increase the throttle. And if you were in a if you're sat in a helicopter, I think you can get them naturally linked anyway, but it's the throttle is like an outer sheath around the collective on the left there that rotates anti-clockwise to give you an increase in throttle and then lift. So you're balancing throttle off, the power going into the engine and then the angle of the blades, and then the stick here is giving you direction left and right. But I think it's pretty true with some helicopters anyway that the collective and the throttle can be automatically linked or disengaged. But suffice to say, all you need to do is lift and go up. So if I just lift up on the throttle, I am going to raise. And the other thing that you'll notice that is going to happen is that it's been a while. I'm just leaning back and just having a look at my pedals to see, are they connected here? No, I don't think they are because I haven't got a nice... No. Okay. But basically, when you lift the aircraft, you'll find some aircraft, depending on the direction of the rotor blades are spinning, will yaw to the left or to the right. And so you just need to apply a little bit of yaw in order to do that. I'm not going to do that. If you want to look at the Autopilot, and there's some videos I've done, I'm just going to press the hover button on the Autopilot, and that will let me go up. So anyway, I hope that you're finding that helpful. There's lots of lovely, interesting stuff here. And for me, this is an amazing aircraft. Lots of people are fascinated with what's going on behind. We didn't do the overhead panels. So the overhead panels, well, there we are. They're overhead. And there's ways, if I press the control, of course, 1, 2, be here somewhere, 3. There's our overhead panels. And if you do a cold and dark start, you'll be familiar with a lot of this stuff as well. But yeah, where's that? Here we go. There's the things there. So it's only an introduction, folks. Hope you found that helpful. And take care and stay safe and happy flying. And it looked lovely. There you go. Lovely, lovely Yorkshire. I love Yorkshire. All right. God bless. Bye.